Navalny. Secondly, express our deep sorry for this death. And third, and maybe the most important thing, is to provide a voice to the Russian opposition. Because in Russia there are people who want to live in freedom, like you and me. And these people have been fighting together with Navalny. And many, which are anonymous, has also been sent to jail and maybe dead. And these people deserve support. And we try to support them. But the best way of supporting them is to give them a voice. Navalny died for that, and now the fight continues.
The United States, United Kingdom have said that there must be consequences for Russia with Alexei Navalny's death. What can the consequences be as far as Europe is concerned? Can there be sanctions? Could there be any actions?
Sanctions. There is, I don't know how many packages of sanctions against Russia since the war started. And sanctions, I think it's 18 packages of sanctions. I don't know, remember exactly the number because it changes every month. But yes, there is sanctions against Russian authorities, against the people responsible for the death of Navalny. There is a lot of economic sanctions against Russian economy in order to weaken their capacity to continue doing war against Ukraine. I am ready to go to the European Foreign Affairs Council and to present proposals in order to sanctions the one that we could consider responsible for the death of Navalny. But you know who is the greatest responsible for the death of Navalny? It's Mr. Putin himself.
And you feel you've done everything you can to punish him or try to constrain him?
He has already been on the sanctions. Putin is on the European Union sanctions. And he is also under the surveillances of International Criminal Court. Let me remind you that the President of Russia cannot go out of Russia because if he goes to a country who is a member of the International Criminal Court, he could be arrested.
So the reality is not much more you can do.
Do you have any suggestion?
How worried are you about Ukraine as critical aid is being held up in the U.S. Congress? Can Europe really make up for the shortfalls in any aid from America?
We are not there. The journalists anticipate all the bad possible news. No?
But President Trump, who is looking for a second term in the United States, is already having an impact on delaying the funding from the U.S. Congress.
That's right. This is something that for everybody that wants Ukraine prevail is a serious concern. Every day on which the decision is being delayed in Washington, someone pays the highest possible price. And this is something that the people who has the capacity to take decisions should keep in mind.
You've expressed your concern before that European defense industries can't keep up with the amount of ammunition that is needed by the Ukrainians as they fight on many fronts.
Certainly, I'm worried. I'm worried because it's my duty and my job to make everything possible in order for the Ukrainians to continue receiving a flow of ammunition for them to continue resisting. And I know that even if we have done a lot, Russia is increasing its capacity and we have to keep the pace. But you know, it's going to be very difficult to imagine that the Europeans alone can substitute the war effort that the US is doing in supporting Ukraine. And this is a call to the responsibility of US lawmakers.
Joseph Borrell, the EU's foreign policy chief, speaking to the BBC's chief international correspondent, Lise Doucet.
Well, let's stay with Russia and Ukraine, because Russian forces have largely seized control of the key Ukrainian town of Avdiivka over the weekend, amid concerns about Ukraine's dwindling supplies of ammunition. And the Russian news agency TASS is just reporting in the past few minutes that its military has taken over an industrial plant, a coke works, where the last holdout of Ukrainian troops was said to be stationed in Avdiivka. On the line is Sviatoslav Yurash, who is a soldier in Ukraine's army as well as being the Ukrainian Member of Parliament. Welcome back to Newsday. First of all, let's talk about Avdiivka. What do you know about what has been happening in the town over the past few hours?
Well, the news are most tragic. The Russians have been encircling the town for the last years, and because of lack of munitions and because of the reality of the fact that Russia's thrown everything at Avdiivka, the success that they had now shows the results of the unwillingness of international partners to try and supply the munitions needed to do the job of defeating Russia.
What does the retreat from Avdiivka tell us about the state of Ukraine's much vaunted counteroffensive?
Well, the reality is that the Russians are trying to push as well, and they're trying to continue their mission, which Mr. Putin has mentioned many times, which is the takeover of Ukraine and destruction of Ukrainian statehood. And the fact is they will continue on. With Avdiivka, this is by no means the end. Russian ambition lies much more in taking over Ukraine, as they have said that time and time again in most advertised interview that Mr. Putin gave to Tucker Carlson. He says exactly that. Mr. Putin is intent on taking over Ukraine. He'll continue on.
When you are joining us now from reasonably close to the front line in the east of Ukraine, when you are fighting rather than being a member of parliament, what is it like when it comes to the level of weaponry, of ammunition that you've got compared to the situation, say, a few months ago?
It is quite challenging. No matter what weapons you use, there are problems we are living through. The fact is, there are many types of weapons that come together to substitute for the munitions we need, and every single time it's a challenge to try and combine all the means to defeat Russian forces as they push here.
So you are conserving ammunition, are you? Do you have to consider whether you fire a particular shot or not? Just talk to me in practical terms about what it means.
Sadly, that's the reality. We have to plan, we have to try and expect that we'll have shortages, so we have to conserve, and we cannot be as active in trying beating the Russians as we should be. And it's very hard to quantify, but it's the reality. The Russians are throwing much more at us than we can throw at them.
Now, there is a dispute within the US Congress about supplying more financial aid and weaponry to Ukraine, and we have heard of warnings of a catastrophe in Ukraine if American politicians don't supply more ammunition. What is your message to them?
It's the reality that they are screaming about making America great again, as they are taking American greatness away, as they are showing America's enemies that they can just wait for the isolationist camp within the states to come into power, and that America can withdraw from its commitments around the world, making its global alliances weaker and making America weakened by that.
Thank you. That's Sviatoslav Yurash there, who's a member of the Ukrainian parliament as well as being a soldier in his country's army, joining us from close to the front line.
Time for business now, and there is some good news for China, its economy. Spending during this month's Lunar New Year holiday, which has just come to an end, was up nearly 50% compared to a year ago, and was even higher than in 2019, before the COVID pandemic. Let's cross to our Singapore Business Hub and speak to our presenter Nick Marsh, who is there. Nick, this sounds encouraging for the world's second largest economy.
Yeah, it is encouraging. Small sign of recovery for China. Obviously, Chinese New Year is a time of massive travel. There was nearly 500 million trips in the space of 8 days, and it's, you know, when people go to visit family, they go on holiday, but above all, they spend. And I think what's going to be most pleasing for the policymakers in China, as they're struggling with a bit of a dodgy economy right now, is that that spending was higher than 2019, before the pandemic, before zero COVID, before all these difficulties set in, basically. The one caveat you do have to say is that this holiday was a day longer than usual, so that did have some bearing on the figures. But, you know, overall, quite good news coming out of China.
But the overall picture is still quite gloomy.
Yeah, and I think a good way of telling that is how much foreign direct investment is going into the country, and that is at its lowest for 30 years. Since 1993, when China was a very different place in a very different world. And after all that growth, you've now actually got people saying, do I want to invest in China? You know, foreign businesses being raided, executives detained, you know, property market in crisis. So at the moment, the confidence from the outside is quite low. Businesses are wary. Doesn't mean that wariness is going to last forever, but that is certainly the case for now.
Nick, thank you very much. We will get back to you later in the programme, and you can find out more about the story on the BBC website, bbc.com/business, where we have an article from Peter Haskins about this story. This is Newsday.
And that's where we leave the BBC World Service this morning. Good morning, it's 5:20 on Monday the 19th of February, and this is Charles Carroll welcoming you to BBC Radio 4. The shipping bulletin is coming up in just a moment, followed at 5:30 by news briefing, and then later Farming Today will be asking whether farmers should be paid to store floodwater on their land. This afternoon, a new series.
I'm Alex Krotowski.
And I'm Kevin Fong. And each week, in a new series for BBC Radio 4, we're going to try and answer a question about AI.
Could AI swing an election? Could it scam me? Or could it even cure my illness?
What can it do for me that humans cannot?
What we believe is that it can understand the images in a different way than a radiologist.
We'll speak to those who are shaping our AI futures.
And hopefully make the subject a little clearer. The Artificial Human on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds. Starts this afternoon at 4:30.
Well, now here's Simon King. Good morning.
Charles, thank you. Yes, good morning. And now the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency for 0505 on Monday the 19th of February. There are warnings of gales in Shannon, Rockall, Madden, Hebrides, Bailey and Fair Isle. The general synopsis at midnight. High Fitzroy 1040, slow moving with little change by midnight tonight. The area forecast for the next 24 hours. Viking, north at Sierra, south at Sierra. Westerly or southwesterly 3 to 5, occasionally 6 later, occasional rain, moderate or good. 40s, Cromarty 4, Tyne, Dogger. West or southwest 4 to 6, rain then showers, good occasionally moderate. Fisher, Gemma and Bight. West or northwest 3 to 5, rain for a time, moderate or good. Humber, Thames, Dover, White, Portland. West or northwest, backing southwest later 3 to 5, increasing 6 for a time. Rain until later, good occasionally moderate. Plymouth. West or northwest, backing southwest later 3 to 5, occasionally 6 later. Rain until later, good occasionally moderate. Biscay. North 3 to 5, becoming variable 2 to 4. Rain at first, good occasionally moderate at first. South Fitzroy. Northerly or northeasterly 3 to 5, increasing 6 for a time. Fair, good. North Fitzroy, Sol. Westerly or southwesterly 4 to 6, decreasing 3 for a time. Rain at first, good occasionally moderate at first. Lundy, Fastnet. West or southwest 4 to 6, rain at first, good occasionally moderate at first. Irish Sea. West or southwest 3 to 5, increasing 5 to 7 later. Rain at first, good occasionally moderate at first. Shannon. West or southwest 4 or 5, increasing 5 to 7, occasionally gale 8 later. Rain later, good occasionally moderate later. Rockall, Madden, Hebrides, Bailey. West or southwest 6 to gale 8, occasionally 5 at first. Rain or showers, moderate or good. Fair Isle. West or southwest 4 to 6, increasing 6 to gale 8 later. Rain or squally showers, good occasionally moderate. Faroes. West or southwest 4 to 6, occasionally 7 later. Rain or squally showers, good occasionally moderate. South East Iceland. Southerly or southwesterly 4 to 6, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7 later, perhaps gale 8 later, occasional rain, good, occasionally moderate. Weather reports from coastal stations.
For about 5 years. He eats like a horse. You would not believe what he eats. I cook most mornings. He has to cook breakfast. He looks really well, but you can see him going slowly, and it breaks my heart. And I don't get a lot of help from the council. I must admit, they're not very good. You know, the council. And
well, we've had a look, and Holly Doyle is a very, very busy girl.
yeah,
She's doing tomorrow, Wednesday, she's everywhere. She's got loads of rides, so we'll check in on her. What we'll do, Sandra, is we'll keep an eye on Holly. Sorry, Doyle. We'll keep an eye on Holly Doyle, and then maybe at the end of the week we'll get you to ring in again, and you can tot up your winnings. Yeah, how about that?
Well, I have to tell you that he doesn't bet on all the races. He picks out, he bets on because of the odds up to be right.
Oh, okay.
So he managed to get up to £1,000 in winnings over 2 years. We just leave it in there.
Well, it's his birthday.
Today, 98.
Is he like, can he have a little livener, little sherbet, or not?
Yes, he's got a brandy there, but he's on heart tablets, but that's a doctor.
Well, it's his birthday. He's 98, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Have a little glam.
I'll go and give him the bumps today. I'm sure he won't like it, but he's a proper character and he's really a lovely man.
98 bumps, you'd be there all day, Sandra. Listen, you're doing a fantastic job, and well done. And
it breaks my heart looking at him deteriorate. But you know, you have to make sacrifices.
You just have to accept it.
Make that many for people, I'm honest with you, because he's the closest.
Change the changeables. Don't do anything about the things you have no control over, or something.
He's doing that himself, yeah.
Is it good? All right, Sandra, you
I feel sorry for that. I've no one.
I know. Well, we're going to hear from a few of them as well.
We try and get older people to help. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
And bring us on Friday, and we'll see how much you made. All right?
Oh, it's on the way.
Nice one. Love to Dad. Give him a hug and a kiss from us. 0345 Holly Doyle. Come on, Holly. 0345 6060 973 is the number to ring. She's at Newcastle tomorrow, Holly. Right, we're asking, if you're a carer, do you look after a loved one? How is it? Because it is difficult and it's debilitating, and though you don't want to admit it, you just sometimes feel like going, stop it! I love my mum. I see her every weekend, but as soon as I turn up, I'll have my suitcase with me, and I'll turn up and I'll give her the newspaper that I bought. It's got to be the Telegraph. And the newspaper, give her some chocolates or whatever, and she just looked at me and she went, "We're not leaving that bag there." And that's what she's worried about. She's worried about bringing mud into the house on shoes, and my, what did she tell me off the other day? She said, "Stop eating so many crisps." I was like, what? Why not? Why? I said, "Mum, I'm 61, you really must stop mothering me." She went, "I can't." Lynn's in Liverpool. Hello, Lynn. I'd like to wish the amazing John a massive happy birthday. Yes, happy birthday, John. 98 today. Have you given up work to look after a loved one? Over a third of people who care for a relative will be forced to quit their job or reduce their hours in the next year. Nearly 400,000 people left work between 2021 and 2022 to care for a relative. Well, we must have quite a few of them listening, I would have thought, when the law of averages says as much. Tell me about your life now that you've given up work to look after a carer, or do you manage to juggle work and caring for a relative? Or have you made the decision that you're going to put them in a care home, or you're going to have carers come to them as we did morning and evening, and now we have a full-time carer, and luckily it's working out fine. I often think my mum would be better off in a care home, not because we want to get rid of her or anything stupid like that, but because she's very sociable and she chats. She's very good at small talk. Have you come far? It's a bit like the royal family, really. What's the other one? Was it busy on the roads? Which normally gets asked quite a few times. Anyway, you tell me about your life now you've become a carer. David, Frank, and I'm going to come to you after the news. First of all, let me read what's happening in the world. We'll start with our own lbc.co.uk. We're leading with the interview that Nick is conducting today. Esther Ransom's rallying cry on assisted dying. TV legend pens open letter to get public behind free vote for MP. She says she's lost 3 people very close to her. Her dad, her was it a relative, another relative, and her dog. And she said the dog definitely had the best death. And she's basically saying, because she's got cancer, and she's saying she wants to be able to choose how and when she dies rather than in some horrible way. So have a look at the national newspapers. The Sun has a football story. Drugs factory in Premier's star's house. We don't know who it is. The Daily Express, the injustice of cancer postcode lottery must end, they say. They've also got an interview with Esther Ransom. The Times, schools will get greater powers to ban mobile phones. You would have thought they'd kind of been banned already, wouldn't you, in schools? Daily Telegraph, Kimi Badenoch accuses post office boss of lying in Horizon row. Daily Mirror, post office scandal, now make them pay. Fury after claim Tories tried to stall payments to Horizon victims. Yes, this is the guy that was sacked by Kemi Badenoch, who said someone's got to fall for this, and he's having his revenge by telling all and sundry that actually it was the government who said to him, what did he say? He said, make the payments to post office staff and the postmasters who were sacked limp, was the word that was used. That was the verb. Make it limp so it takes longer. The Guardian, Putin accused of covering tracks over Navalny death. The Independent, British Army hero, give my Afghan comrade a home. Veteran paratrooper demands Britain reverse his decision to deny sanctuary to the commando who fought with him against the Taliban. There was, what was it? I thought great excuses to gain asylum was in one of the papers this morning. There was this guy who, he's supposedly 22, but he pretends that he's 18. And when asked why he could prove that, he said, I've got the same thing as Jude Bellingham, the footballer. I just look older than I am, he said, and I act older than I am. And he got in. The Metro, Putin planned murder down to the second, it says here. In minute detail. Right, it's just after 5:30. Let's get the headlines with Thomas Watts.
Israel's war cabinet ministers warned forces will push ahead in southern Gaza if Hamas fails to release remaining hostages. Benny Gantz has appeared to set a deadline of the start of Ramadan for the captives to be freed. The death of Alexei Navalny is expected to be discussed by MPs later as the Commons returns after recess. The government is weighing up its response to the death of the Russian opposition leader. The government is moving ahead with plans to ban mobile phones in schools in England. The non-statutory guidance covers break and lunch periods and not just lesson time. LBC weather, breezy with sunny spells for most places. Showers in northwestern parts of the UK later. A high of 11 degrees.
This is LBC.
Your call is really important to us.
Waiting. Frustrating, isn't it? Especially when you've got plans. Whether you're thinking of revamping your home or looking for ways to move your business forward, we'll help you get there with finance that's right for you. So don't let your plans get stuck on hold. Join over 1 million customers